The "I want everything now" mentality of quick gratification is a problem in today's society. While in the midst of a sex session, I'd think to myself, yeah, this feels nice, this is amazing, but I really want to get to this ejaculatory climax because that's going to feel even better. It took me a while to get over the idea that I had to ejaculate to finish a sexual session, whether I was engaging in it solo or with a partner. This is because, as you engage in sexual activity, you build up pressure and arousal in your genitalia, and the natural response is to release some of that pressure by ejaculating. Men's sexual energy is highly charged and unpredictable, so it's important for us to learn to channel it in a healthy way. So, basically, it was hard for me to contain this sense of excitement since I hadn't done a lot of work to prepare my body to handle this surge in stimulated sexual energy. At the end of a session, for example, I often feel agitated and a strong urge to ejaculate. As a result, I ejaculated frequently at the climax. I discovered, however, as I studied methods for channeling libidinal energy away from the genitalia and into the rest of the body, that this is where mental practices really shines. Some sessions would end without my ejaculating because I was channeling the energy from my genitalia via the microcosmic orbit, the pathways of the body, and finally storing it in my belly utilizing these sketching techniques. I recall feeling great when these sessions were over, much as you do when you're on the verge of losing control while having sex or masturbating or whatever. It's not uncommon for you to have feelings of elation and pleasure as a result of your sexual activity. You've reached a delicate level of orgasmic bliss. It's tempting to take things to the extreme and ejaculate since you know it would make you feel better. You push yourself to the breaking point because you know it will feel fantastic. For the next 5 to 10 seconds, it could get stronger, or it could stay approximately the same as it was before. So then you feel a little down because, when you've had an intense sexual experience and you realize you can't keep that momentum continuing or have another orgasm right now, you may feel a sense of disappointment. When I go back to it, I realize that I felt a deep sense of depression because of it. When I left a session without ejaculating, I felt incredible, since I had kept that energy in my body rather than releasing it as urine. There was still desire there, and not only sexual desire. I was just channeling it in different ways, and it was starting to propel me throughout the day. My mind was in a very productive place. As a musician, my focus would naturally be on musical endeavors. I felt like I had an endless supply of original thoughts just waiting to burst forth from me. Feeling strong and confident and charged up for the rest of the day or maybe even a few days depending on how depleted you were was a trade-off I was willing to make to experience a few seconds of intensified pleasure at the end of the session. The trade-off no longer appeared to be worthwhile. There was always the want to just ejaculate at the end of my training sessions or, again, when I was practicing toying with my sexual energy. I still did it occasionally, and it never felt good when I did. That there wasn't even noticeably greater pleasure was disappointing, and losing my semen meant I had to start over and wait a few days before trying again. Perhaps there came a time when people realized, it's simply not worth it anymore. If I felt the want to ejaculate, I would remind myself of, I wonder how I'm going to feel now that it's over. I'm worried about how I'll feel the next few days. Eventually, I won't have quite as much vitality as I do today. Because of this, I began to think in this way, trying to grasp the big picture. An ability to think forward rather than giving in to fleeting desires. I'd compare it to, say, an eating disorder, and I certainly wouldn't want to disparage such a lovely part of nature as ejaculation by comparing it to such a thing. It's fundamental to being human since it's how we give birth to new life. Ejaculating is a normal component of the endocrine system, and while it's not harmful on occasion, the abuse of this natural activity for the sake of a temporary boost in dopamine can have devastating effects on a person's mental, physical, and emotional well-being. Preparatory work, which I initially ignored, proved to be crucial as I trained in sexual energy work and sexual kung fu. These foundational practices include Qigong exercises, breath work, and meditation to open up the energy channels, clear out blockages, and dispel negative energies in preparation for sexual activity. Initially, all I wanted to do was dive right into the sexual energy exercises. Because I had neglected this preliminary preparation, my efforts to channel aroused sexual energy through the body were less fruitful than they might have been. To put it another way, I had a harder time extracting this sexual energy from my genitalia. Finding fulfillment while not ejaculating and so on was more challenging for me. I began regular Qigong practice after delving deeply into mental training techniques. I have learned to practice breath exercises, ground my energy, clear my channels, calm my thoughts, and maintain a balanced flow of energy. At that point, using sexual energy techniques was a breeze. Because I was enjoying myself so much throughout my practice and during my sexual experience, I lost interest in ejaculating frequently. That's the thing with Kung Fu for the bedroom. While most guys enjoy sex for a few minutes, you shouldn't be satisfied with simply an ejaculatory orgasm that lasts 5 to 10 seconds. Using sexual Kung Fu skills, I was able to extend the peak sensation for much longer, till I was riding a wave of pure pleasure. It's not quite like repeatedly experiencing an ejaculatory orgasm, but it's an orgasmic state that lasts longer and doesn't conclude with a rush of adrenaline. Additionally, one of the things that men have the hardest time letting go of is the knowledge that they do. An ejaculatory orgasm looks like this. What you're experiencing is the release of pent-up energy. Men tend to misuse this because they get high off of the feeling of having no reserves of energy left after releasing everything. Therefore, there is no relief while seeking a sexual experience that does not involve ejaculating. Don't worry, you haven't lost anything. You've made more progress. You've amassed more of a positive charge. Thus, you may feel uneasy in the presence of such heightened energy if your system is not fully prepared to deal with it. One possible solution is to increase the frequency with which you ejaculate or to put in more effort broadening the body's energetic channels, allowing it to better accommodate the increased intensity of the energy. The sexual drive that motivates you to create, to be successful, to become more of who you are, and to do something worthwhile with your life is the same urge that will be present even after a non-ejaculatory sexual encounter. However, this is when sexual desire makes you feel uneasy. You, like many guys, have difficulty with arousal, and this indicates that you are not effectively transmuting your sexual energy. To be in command of your sexual energy, you must have intense sexual desire that does not control you. You feel at ease in that setting. This is basically about learning to accept sexual desire and a heightened degree of sexual energy in the body rather than succumbing to the want to constantly release this energy in damaging ways. For this reason, it takes time to go from having solely ejaculatory orgasms to experiencing a full body sensation of intense arousal, intense desire, and intense sexual energy just rushing through your channels without being furious and irritated. To sum up, it's a matter of expanding one's perspective and gaining a deeper understanding of one's body in order to have a more satisfying sexual and orgasmic experience.